Add to stream. There I am. Whew. All right. Is anybody there left? All right. I am here. I made it. Trying to figure out the details of this is always, I always think I have it. And then I get online and go, why isn't it working? I'm here. Yay. And Isabel's here. It's an Isabel night. She always wants to know what's going on when I'm talking and there's nobody else around. All right, so we've made it. I've got online, and Bethany sees me, so it has to all be good. All right, so I wanted to do a Q&A, and I wish I had a better name than Q&A, but I'm going to take you back. So, like 12 years ago, when I was first starting, I was in school getting my transformational psychology, and I would go out to this local coffee shop. And when I would go to the coffee shop, there was one woman that worked at that coffee shop that her and I would start talking, and she would ask me questions, and we'd be talking, and it wasn't just about my answer. Okay, as much as this is Q&A, it's Q&A for anybody who's interested. I mean, what's my perspective versus someone else's perspective? And we would talk, and keep in mind, I'm usually by the register. There's a line of people that they're helping. The woman behind the register, though, was the manager, so she had all the other baristas working the line, but her and I would just talk, and we just had the most fun conversations. The interesting part was that as everybody was going through this line, when they got near us, they didn't want to leave, and they would like start gathering around listening to what we were talking about. And they would be like, oh, like they didn't even know the answers that they wanted to ask, maybe, but they were fascinated by what we were talking about. And what we were talking about was metaphysical subjects. Metaphysical subjects are just fascinating, and especially for those who aren't even in this realm. It was like a little dipping their toe into the unknown, and maybe even a little bit of the forbidden, because we are in the South. And we had the group of people around us that they weren't necessarily saying much, but the conversation was more enlivened by their, even if they weren't participating much, by their being there and sharing their energy. But you could just see these looks on their faces about, making them think in ways they had never thought before. And so I love this idea of having a conversation about subject matters. I work in this day in and day out. And so my answers, like I said, I've got a million answers that I will talk to about clients, but I'm also very interested in other people's perspectives. And so when I was doing this, like one of the questions that I got recently, and you have to excuse my hair, was I had a session with a 3-year-old today. And that is a question all by itself. It's like, can what I do be applied to a 3-year-old? Because, I have a title as a master hypnotic coach. I'm an intuitive energy healer. Well, I have found the most profound shifts in the younger age groups that they don't have to even have a conversation with me about what needs to be healed. Maybe they just will play in the room, like I've got some stuffed animals, and there is an energetic level happening behind the scenes. And so we will be playing, but there is a lot more going on. And it's very similar to when I talk to clients and I tell them that, we can just be sitting here across from one another and having a conversation, but there's a lot of energy happening and shifting behind the scenes between our higher selves and our spiritual teams. And that's the way it is with working with like a 3-year-old. I've had several instances where I've worked with very young children. And I remember like the first one, a parent had talked to me. She had been a client and she was wondering if I'd ever worked with children. And I told her I had never worked with anyone that young. And I said, but I would be willing to experiment and try, and see if there was a shift. And so she brought in her, I think he was maybe 2. He was very young. And that's why I was like, you can't have a cohesive conversation with a 2-year-old or ask them to close their eyes or imagine stuff. They're not going to sit still for that. So I remember just playing with him and um, just working with his energy as I was playing with him. And it was a profound experience in that the mom told me later this child had always had very vivid nightmares, night terrors, and she said that the night terrors just went away, like would never experienced a night terror again. And the 3-year-old, excuse me, a 4-year-old that I was seeing today, who worked on my hair the whole session, like she was taking apart my hair and putting things in it. For her, this was her second appointment with me. And it was very similar in that she would never sleep through the night. She would always wake up in the middle of the night or very, very early. And her foster mom would have to, take care of her if she got up. And especially dealing with her also if there was some emotional upheaval in that time frame. And she said that the child has slept through all night long, which and I saw her I think 2 weeks ago, and so she's like, it's not just been, a little bit better. It's like she has gone to sleep and woke up much later than usual for ever since I saw her 2 weeks ago. So that's really cool. So anyway, my hair's a little ratty and down, but that's okay. I just wanted to come here and be with you guys. And I see I have Bethany. Hi, Bethany. How are you doing? Does Bethany have a question? I have some questions that have come in, just by talking to clients over the last week or two that I thought, would be appropriate to bring here just to give people an idea of, what I kind of envisioned this to be. It's really, like I said, about starting a conversation and about understanding from a metaphysical perspective and from someone who works with a lot of energy and energy healing and in the metaphysical realm, the perspective of utilizing that to your greatest degree. And sometimes it is just about a different perspective. Oh, can't talk. One of the things that I was asked recently, and this I think was in the store, but we were talking about altars. Altars are something that I have never worked with much until about 4 or 5 years ago. And I started working with them when I started reading a book called The Sophia Code. And in the Sophia Code, she utilized altars a lot. And I have to admit, I think I had an inner resistance to it because my perception was that an altar is something you would put up there and then you would like put, you would worship what was on the altar. And worshiping to me is not an empowering energy. But when I realized that an altar is not about worshiping what's on that altar, it is about focusing your attention. It is about putting you into a place and an energy and a time that is for a specific purpose or reason. And in the Sophia Code, we worked with different ascended masters, and the ascended masters were beautiful, beautiful feminine goddess energies. And you would put up their picture to connect with their energy. You're trying to connect to that energy and kind of imbue their gifts into you. But also it's about focusing you at a time and a place that is very purposeful. So, so many of us go through our day wondering how to have a more enlightened day, how to have a more peaceful existence, to manifest the things that we want. Well, an altar can be really beneficial for that because it is focusing you at a specific time, which is what brings, when you are trying to connect to your spiritual team, they will always say that, if you're here consistently, we will also show up. And when you have an altar, you're consistently showing up. So it's really cool to have an altar and then show up at the same time of day. Now, that's not a complete requirement. It's just that as you're building the practice, it also brings it into a, a, a way of for you to remember. Like if it's the same time, it can become a habit, not a habit in the bad sense, but in the good sense, and that you're showing up for yourself every day. And you want to have that consistency for them to show up. Now, I see that in my therapy office a lot because the energy in my that room is really profound, and it's because I'm there every single day working one-on-one with clients. And if I wasn't showing up every day, they wouldn't necessarily show up into that room every day either. But because I do, they do. And that's the way your altar works. If you show up, they will show up. And then whatever you have on your altar is what you can kind of focus in to work on your intentions, or to, like I said, bring in certain energies. And, that's the beauty of an altar, is each one of them is absolutely unique and different. And, I'm laughing because I'm thinking in my office. My home is not very cluttered. I don't like a lot of stuff, but my altar at my office is almost a whole wall. It's what, 3 or 4 shelves high, and it's grown over time. Like I had started it with the few things like from the Sophia Code, but it has become a beautiful place for me to bring together very meaningful things. And every time I can look over at that altar, I connect to that space very strongly because it brings up memories. It's things, items that maybe a client has given me that I absolutely love. Or maybe I've got some shells from the seashore. I have bird feathers that I have picked up on my walks. I have pictures of ascended masters that I value their opinion. I value what they went through and how they have achieved their ascension. And I want to emulate their own energy. So I love the ability to tap into a specific place, a specific time, and connect into trying to whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve. And for me, I'm usually just trying to achieve, a better peace of mind, trying to achieve the perspective so that I can understand others and the things that I teach. I usually ask for patience. I am the least impatient person in the world about creating things for myself. I'm always like, that's it, let's go, go, go. And so patience for me is I'm very patient with other people, but not necessarily with myself. So the altar is a really neat tool. And like I said, you can put figurines on it about different pictures or figurines about different entities that you like. This afternoon, when I was looking at my altar, I saw an ankh that I had just recently found on a recent crystal show. And I've never found an ankh that was carved from crystal. And this is out of rose quartz. And it's big, like it's, I don't know, 6-8 inches long. And the ankh is a symbol of our life. It's the energy of life, life's energy. And I just love that ankh. I absolutely adore it. It's, ankhs are just not a common symbol that we use much. It's more of an Egyptian symbol. But to me, it still represents life, that energetic energy of life. And so, it's the energy that brings life, that enhances life. So yeah, it's like each altar is going to be different. And usually in altars, you can bring together different parts of the elements. So you can have fire, water, earth, ether, air. And so, again, you just play with that. Connect with the pieces that you want to connect with, as far as could be an ascended master, it could be a guide, it could be an archangel, it could be anything that, you correlate with. Of course, on mine, I have lots of dragons. I even have a big raven. So lots of really cool things. So that was about altars. What else? Oh, so another question that I recently got was, I did a group healing. Had a group event, and in the group event, I had utilized my own intuitive. And when I use my intuitive powers, it's usually about energy healing, but I will get intuitive hits every once in a while. It's certainly not the focus, and I will say right up front, I don't consider myself to be the most profound psychic out there. I think there's way better psychics than I am, but I can pick up on energy. I usually pick up on the energy in ways that I feel it more than I see it. And in this session, the woman, as we had done an energy healing on her, I'm trying to recall all the details of it. We had released some stuck energy on her. And when I did it, I got the energy of a masculine energy. And I asked her something about her dad. And I was like, so is your dad passed or is he still with us? And she said he had passed. And I was like, okay, well, this could be your dad. And whatever this masculine energy was, it had felt stuck, like it had stayed with her energy field. And we didn't get into it too much because I even told her during the event that I was like, this is not my specialty as far as trying to determine what that masculine energy is. Her dad's passed. It seemed to make sense. And then she emailed me wondering about, or she emailed me saying, okay, I thought it was her father, she said, but she had talked to another psychic who had said that her father had passed over and that he had was in heaven and that he was fine. He was good. And I was like, okay, well, he can be perceived as being in heaven, but there could still be an aspect of himself that is stuck in her energy. And it became a topic of conversation between the two of us because it opened up the concepts of how, when we are dealing with spiritual topics, it's very hard to explain in a really deep, comprehensive way all of the attributes of the energy and the dimensions that we are not always aware of. And I think people tend to hear about these dimensions, like we're in the 3D, there's a 4D is kind of where the ghosts reside. There's a 5D, which is kind of where we're moving into in this new energy. And when they talk about these numbers, it's to simplify it. It's to make it really comprehensible to us without telling us really all of the information about it, because we're just really not capable of understanding all of the information until you're in it. When we are in this 3D experience, it is very tough to comprehend things that we've never consciously in our rational mind witnessed. And that rational mind wants to put into little boxes so that it can compartmentalize all this information. So if we talk about what happens when you die, it's trying to put its knowledge, that left brain, the rational mind is trying to go, okay, this is the information that I've experienced and I know and understand. And then it wants to apply it to something we've never experienced. And it has a really hard time getting outside of the box of its own experiences. So when we talk about the 5D, when we talk about 6D, until we've actually experienced it and that rational mind has had something to compute and put into its little computer bank and store, and then it can compare against it. But until it does, it really suffers in trying to understand the other side. And our spiritual teams understand this. They will give us information in a very simplified form. They use metaphors because it's really almost impossible to speak literally of that other side. And so when you have had an experience and you've talked to psychics or intuitives and they're giving you information, you have to understand that the psychics are giving you one information that is probabilities. We have in front of us a path that we're moving along that is full of potentials. And the paths that are in front of us, there's different probabilities for each one of those paths. So you can see, psychics usually tune into the most probable path. So say that that path is like 70% chance that you're going to go on it. That's the one they tune into. But there's also other paths that have lower probability that they may not bring up. And this is one of the reasons that psychics, really good psychics, are not always right. When I first started on my own journey, I read everything about Edgar Cayce because he was the most highly documented psychic and channeler of all time. And I really appreciated that. I had to feed my left brain the information to go, okay, there's really something to this. There's more to it than I ever understood. And he documented it all. Well, his, probability of being right was really high, but it was not 100%. And that's because of the timelines and the probabilities. So when you talk to a psychic, the chances are they may be on to some truth, but it's not for sure. And you, being the creator of your life, actually have way more influence in creating your life than if you just allowed it to flow. So one of the interesting personal stories, like I remember I talked to a psychic years and years ago, and she had told me that she saw that I was going to start my own business in a bakery. And it was really funny because at the time I was like, why? I wasn't even that interested in baking. I knew I could do it, but do I want to start a business in it? I don't know. But I got it in my head that I was going to have a bakery one day, and it just did not let go. And eventually I did. I got laid off from a job in 2008 during that Great Depression or recession. And I started a bakery out of my house. But it's always, in my head, I'm like, what was first? Because I never even thought of opening a bakery until a psychic told me. And then I did it based on this concept that it could be done. And if she saw it, then it must be able to be done. And I kept my focus on that so much that I literally created it. And it was also one of my creations that once I got into it, I absolutely hated. I mean, it was fun to build it up and to create it and to have the success of it. But the day in, day out management of it was really, really tough. And so after like 3 or 4 years, I sold it. But I've always wondered, like, would have I had the bakery idea if the psychic hadn't told me about it first? I don't know. So you got to be careful, like having things put into your head. Um, there's nothing wrong with having something in your head and sticking to it, but you can also remove the things that are in your head that you don't want to create. And so you just have to be really conscious and aware of that. Oh, Bethany's saying, what are your favorite or most effective grounding techniques? Well, Bethany, what is my most? Okay, so the most grounding, this might surprise you. It's not a good one. I don't know. I shouldn't say it's not necessarily a bad one, but it's unfortunately for me, it's my favorite one. It puts you into your body. It's a very sensual experience when you are chewing. It's a very tactile experience. So anything that is going to allow you to really ground in, and it's also brings your energy down also because it is now having to decompose what you have eaten, and that is a very grounding experience, is just eating something. Now, and of course, what you eat can depend on how grounded you get. So like if you eat something that's really, organic and like vegetables, it's less grounding than if you ate something like a red meat that is going to, now you're incorporating another animal's energy into your own. And now you're really having to deal with some things that are going to bring your energy down. But it's also my favorite way to ground. Now, if we're talking just from an energetic perspective, my favorite is probably walking on the beach. Walking on the beach, again, it's very sensual. If you are barefoot and you can feel the sand between your toes and you can feel the water coming up. And when I'm on the beach, it's almost like I can feel the heartbeat of Earth at that space. You hear the very routine of the water coming in and out. And it is when you stay focused on what is happening with your body at that moment, that is very grounding. Grounding is always, I'll be honest, it's always been a real challenge for me because I'm always up here and yet I'm such a thinker, both analytically as well as spiritually. So walking in nature, whether it be the beach, is very helpful. Anytime that you're moving your body. And so moving your body, again, it's about, moving your body can be very sensual too. And I got that word in my head right now, but sensuality is about just being in the body and being human. We're not sensual, so to speak, when we're in spirit form. Because we can't touch, we don't have the same sensations. You can't taste, you can't hear. So anytime that you can bring all of your senses, your human senses to play, that's helping you ground. Now, when you're moving, and so if you can imagine, you have your body, but then around your body, you have your energy field. And when you're walking, especially out in nature, that energy field is bigger than you, right? So the energy field's above you, it's beyond you, and it's also below you. And when you're walking, that energy field is constantly moving. I always describe it almost like the currents of water or air. And as that energy field is moving around you and it's swirling down into the ground, right? Because it's below you and it's swirling up above you and around you. And when you're moving, that energizes that energy field. So movement is key to really grounding yourself. Now, if you're looking for a way to do it at home and you just want to have a lazy grounding, for me, it's besides eating, is taking a bath. Taking a bath with sea salt. Some people use coffee too, but sea salt. And I like a little bit of oil in mine, but sea salt baths are amazing. And they are not only grounding, but they also help clear your energy field. And so you can be in that water and again, the sensuality of the water, the sensations, and then you can tap in. But it's also a way to connect yourself in, when you're going out in nature, you're connecting to nature, right? When you're in the bath, you have that salt, which is a crystal, accentuating your ability to ground and connect into nature. So that's another one of my favorites. So I'm going to ask you, Bethany, what's your favorite way to ground? What is your favorite way to ground? I'm curious. You can ground in so many different ways. And I use visualizations when I work with clients about helping them root their energy down into the earth. But grounding is usually, it's very helpful to have movement with grounding to really get that energy field of yours to move. We tend to, when we get in our head and when we do a lot of meditation, all of our energy tends to be focused in the higher chakras. And so anything that helps your lower chakras get energized is the key to some grounding techniques. All right, Bethany. Any of your favorite grounding techniques? What you got? What you got? I'm going to just look at what other questions that have come up recently around me. So many questions to choose from. Nothing. Bethany's all distracted, or she doesn't have any ground. No, she does. She is one that has been on such an amazing spiritual path of her own. So Bethany is saying that she uses a lot of aromatherapy and crystals for grounding. Oh, well, that's smart. I bet I know where you can find those. There's a store. It's called Quantum Life downtown Gary. You're so cute, Bethany. Yeah, aromatherapy and crystals are good for grounding. They're good for so many different things that it's just amazing. I love anything that helps us with that. Bethany saying she loves baths too, but doesn't always have the time. Nope. I know it's really tough. But you still have kids at home. I don't have kids at home. I just have the cat. It's me and the cat. Baths to me are the most, it's interesting with the sea salt bath. I actually find it the most powerful grounding, but also the times that I can have almost the best connection to my own intuition and be able to talk to my spiritual team. It really seems to enhance that spiritual connection. So it's really cool. I love it. I love my baths. All right. So another question that I get is about finding inner peace. And this is, how do I find inner peace? Is like, how do I find, how do I create peace for all the world? It's a big question, and there's many, many layers to this one. But I was giving it a little bit of thought, and I was thinking about all the ways that somebody would normally answer this question about the key things that you could do. So if you were to find inner peace, I think the general consensus is that you would practice mindfulness and meditation, that you would exercise and take care of yourself. You could engage in activities that would create joy in your life, do things with friends or family, things that would bring you fulfillment. Connecting with nature, spending time out in nature reduces stress and brings people a sense of tranquility. And, if you are looking for that inner peace, some people look for a therapist or they look for help outside of themselves to try to understand the struggle that they're going on. They would say to find peace, you need to be kind and compassionate to yourself, to develop a positive attitude or perspective in life. And gratitude is a huge thing too. Finding gratitude in life and the perspective again of that everything that's happening in your life, maybe there's a reason for it. And it's not to say that you're not struggling, that it might be tough. Almost always, and actually I'm going to say that you can always find a positive aspect to the situation that you're in. Now, sometimes that positive aspect takes time, distance from the actual situation, and that's okay. But there is always a positive aspect. And anytime that we are challenged, it's really about finding our own inner core. And all those things that I was just listing about finding your own inner peace, what I find interesting about it is that it really goes back to it's all an internal job. And everything that we do in our world, how we interact with people, is almost all outside. And that's why people struggle with inner peace, is because they are so looking outside of themselves. They're looking outside to family. They're looking at friends. They are looking at beliefs that they were raised with and trying to match. They are trying to, work that job and show up and do things that they don't really even enjoy. All of that is on the outside. And if you're looking for inner peace, you have to go inside. The answers are always inside. And the list that I gave you, walking in nature and being mindful and doing all these other things, they work because they're trying to get you to be more inner reflective instead of paying so much attention to the outside world. It's about looking inward and finding yourself, because all the answers that you have are truly within you, and only you have the answers to that. Now, for some people, that can feel overwhelming. They're going to go, whoa, whoa, what do I know? Or, how, or maybe I'm not intuitive. Maybe I don't feel psychic. But intuition, I love the word inspiration actually, because we all are inspired occasionally. We all feel that inner knowingness that happens within us. And it's that moment, it is that connection, it's that awareness that guides us to that inner peace. When you truly know yourself, then you have inner peace. When you are compassionate to yourself and have really healthy boundaries about keeping away the things that are not supportive of you, that are not inspirational to you, then you find inner peace. If you're trying to do what you think you're supposed to because of what other people have told you, if you're trying to keep up with some perspective that, again, you've been taught or trained with, or even that you think is best, because it's like being number one on some video game. You know what? If that brings you an inner peace, that's great. But if you're trying to do it just because you're trying to show somebody else that you're just as good or better, that's not bringing you inner peace. And when you start looking inward and finding and reflecting about yourself and about what does work for you and what doesn't work for you, then you start finding inner peace. Now, the trick is you have to act on it. You can't just notice it and then ignore it and do what you were doing that was bringing the disease, the uncomfortableness, right? I always say that true depression really happens because if you can imagine that you have a higher self that loves you unconditionally, that they adore you, they see nothing wrong with you, they don't think that you have a thing wrong with you, but then you are judging yourself, that you are being harsh with yourself, that you are taking to task yourself the things that you don't feel like you did right, or you didn't good enough, or that, whatever it was, that's in conflict. Higher self is going love, 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 love. And if you're coming in here and going, oh no, I did this wrong and I did that wrong and I should be doing this. Well, all those shoulds are things that other people have probably told you is important. Is it really? Your higher self doesn't care. And when those aren't in agreement, your higher self and your actions and that inner conflict comes from not just being in love with yourself as much as your higher self is. What would it be like to love yourself as much as your own higher self? Then you become at peace. That is true inner peace, is understanding that life is just life. It is an experience. And, I think I've said before, I love getting older, because when you can look back on your extended life, you realize that there's been ups and downs. There have been times when you didn't think you were going to make it, or you were scared shitless because you were so unsure of how it could possibly work out. You were so worried about things that never even happened. And now I look back and I can see what a waste of energy it all is. And it eases me into today as I act, because I'm like, I can look at my history and go, it's never panned out. And that's about soothing that left brain, because it's the one that usually wants to panic. It's the one that's trying to figure things out. And so now I can tell it going, look, we've managed to survive. We've managed to walk through the really scary parts in life. We have managed to walk away from the things that we know we didn't serve us, and are now incredibly healthy for it. We have jumped off the cliffs and survived. And that is what is empowering in life, in that you start to realize that you do have strength, that you do have the ability to navigate life in a way that you're not always going to understand and know what is going to be coming around that next corner. That's why it's so important to really tap into yourself and understand that the answers are all within yourself. They're all there. Hello, RL. Any questions, as long as it has something to do with, the spiritual realm or self-empowerment, yeah, I'm pretty open. You should just ask whatever you want and I'll tell you if it is inappropriate or not. How's that? Was there something that you're looking for answers? And, these are about, kind of understanding life, understanding energy, understanding the metaphysical realm. It's about finding ways to become empowered and living a life that is in fulfillment, finding ways to engage in your own true self and expression in this world. So, yeah, let's see what you got. And I would be happy to, I was saying earlier that for me, I called it a Q&A, but it's really about starting conversations. It's about having a conversation about life, about what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And I can give you a perspective, but I'm not the end all be all, right? I am just one person that is studied a lot on this realm, but I'm always open to everyone's perspective and trying to understand. So, yeah, I would love to hear what your question is, and we can see if it all comes into alignment for us. So I am just going to. So what else were we talking about? So we're talking about finding about inner peace, and that inner peace can be a really challenging part for us, because when you are searching for inner peace, it is about identifying the things that don't give you inner peace. And it does come down to a point of understanding that you have been told a lot of things in your life, and what is it that you agree with? Maybe what you've been told is not something that you're in agreement with internally. So RL says he's a 35-year-old male. Okay, well, tell me a little bit more. That's not a question. You say you don't have your stuff together. How do I find my spirituality? How do I find my spirituality? That's an internal quest, isn't it? It really comes down. The cool thing about spirituality is it can be whatever that you need it to be. You said you don't have your shit together. Well, where is it apart? Where is it that you're struggling? Where are you at unease? Is it that's such a big topic that it's tough to zone in on something. It's a big, big topic. So are you unhappy in like your personal life or your work life? Do you feel compelled towards any particular modality? Some people like crystals, some people like Buddha, some people like ascended masters, some people like angels, some people like religion. What is it that intrigues you? Anything that you can get curious about is usually a great place to start. It's a compass. And when you're looking for the direction to go, you can look inward to yourself and find the little thing that you are curious about, that you want to know more about. And that is the most beneficial way to be led on this journey. Now, when I was first dabbling into this, I had a very strong left brain, and I wanted to really understand or know if psychics really were true. Was it possible that the psychics really were telling the future, that they could tap into that information and share it? And just my curiosity led me very naturally to a book about Edgar Cayce. And when I read his story, I was fascinated because it really started giving me the proof about that my left brain needed to give the evidence of that there's more to the psychic thing than I ever understood. All right, so RL is saying, I'm going to put it up. I'm unhappy in my personal and work life. Just don't know what I want to truly do with my life. I hate the word work, but I want to do something I love and haven't figured out what that is yet. Oh, I've been here, RL. I have been here. I was talking a little bit earlier that I had a bakery once and I absolutely hated it after having it for 3 or 4 years, and I sold it. And when I sold it, I was completely burned out. I didn't know what to do with myself. And all I knew is I was exhausted. And I had lost my way. Like, I had done a lot of spiritual work up to the point before owning that bakery. But once I owned the bakery, all I did was the bakery. It took over my life. And by the end of that 3 years, I was dead inside. And that's symbols enough that you should realize that if you're feeling dead inside, you're headed in the wrong direction. That if you are dreading putting your feet in front of you to go to work or to go wherever you are, your body and your emotional state are always giving you the feedback that you need. So the goal here is for you to look inward to something that does sound cool, that does sound intriguing, or that you can be curious about. So I'm curious if there was something that you have always been curious about, something that even maybe as a little kid that you were really interested in, or maybe you thought you were wanting to do it, but then got talked out of it. Because usually the things that we really were fascinated with when we were like 5 or 6 are the things that somehow correlate to our own life in an important way. For me, I'm very organized, and I remember I would like have little 3x5 cards, and I would organize them by alphabet. And then I would stand in front of everybody, and I had a blackboard, and I'd play teacher. Now, I never wanted to be a teacher in our teaching system, but I'm definitely a teacher in this realm. So RL, and this might take some contemplation on your part. But for me, when I sold my bakery, I literally went into a meditative state, and I was like just looking for something that would spark my interest. And I remember being in that state and being in meditation and looking around going, there is nothing here, because I was so dead inside. I was so overworked. I worked 7 days a week for 4 years. And I was dead inside. And the only tiny little spark way down, it was just the tiniest little bit of light, was that I'd always been intrigued by past life regression. And I'd always wanted to have one. I'd tried it once, and it was a dismal failure. And it was the only thing that I was like, yeah, I still want to do that. But keep in mind that the spark that I'm asking for you to find is not the end all. It's just the first step for you to discover where that might take you. So RL says he has a fascination of being famous and have respect for films, actors, actresses, and creators. Okay, but what is it how can you apply that in your own life that would be of interest? Like, do you like to study them? Do you like to, because, write books about them? I mean, I think it would be actually really fascinating to do an in-depth book about being famous and the pros and the cons, because there's a lot of pros and cons to that, right? The pros can be very egotistical. The cons are, boy, really can undermine you if you are not strong and grounded in your own self. So RL, as I was talking about this past life regression, right? That was my spark. That was the thing that I was like, okay, yeah, I I'm sorry, I was reading RL. He said, "Whoa, 7 days a week, 4 years." Yeah, I was dead inside, okay? Dead. I had to leave that, and that was a huge leap for me to go, "I have to get out of this." It was not a happy conversation with the husband at the time because he really had foreseen that this was gonna be the end all be all, and I was like, "I cannot do this for the rest of my life. I will die." Or, I mean, I would have gotten to the point where I would have been suicidal if I had stayed in that. I'm very sensitive though, and I have no willingness to get that far into depression though. Um, Anyway, going into my meditation after I sold the bakery and I was trying to figure out my next step and I found the spark, past life regression. So all I did was I like read up on past life regression. I was fascinated. I just read all the books that I could about past life regression. And that led me to finding a online school where I could go back for a couple of years and get my degree in the transformational psychology realm. But it's just one step at a time. Now, even after I get my degree in the transformational psychology realm, I get my certification as a hypnotherapist. Do my certification in life coaching. Even then, though, it wasn't the end state. It's just that was part of my journey. And honestly, I'm still on that journey. That was 12 years ago, though, when I went back to school. And it has evolved so much in that time frame. But what I have learned how to do is to listen to my heart about what is inspirational, what feels good to me, rather than doing what I should do. The big difference. RL says, I like the word play that's used in films. I'm currently in Toastmasters Club because I'm a shitty speaker. Well, that's why I love Toastmasters too, because they really get you to get out of your comfort zone, right? And if you want to really excel into yourself, you really do have to get yourself out of your comfort zone. Now, explain this. I just like the word play that's used in films. So is it the writing that you're intrigued with this? I mean, do you like to write? Have you ever considered writing? I'm intrigued by this, RL. This is fun to see where we can find for you because there is something there. Anything that you like, that's the spark that you go, ooh, that's really cool. That is what you should. It's kind of like a string on a yarn, you just kind of grab the string and you just keep pulling it going, okay, I like this, and you play with it for a while and it's going to take you to the next thing. So you like the wordplay that's used in films. And I'm curious if you like to write and read, if you like that word language. I struggle with language. I have a hard time speaking English. I can speak light language all day long, but English, oh my gosh, it's a tough one for me. So I'm intrigued what you do naturally well that you're not giving yourself credit for. What are other people saying that you do well? And starting to recognize the gifts that you have, but not having to worry about trying to apply them in what everyone else thinks. Like for me, I do a lot of energy work. See, RL saying the writing. Yes. I have a feeling about you, RL, the writing. Yes. So what if you took like a course in writing a screenplay, right? Or writing. I mean, I love that you're journaling because journaling is a beautiful way to start. It's about getting those words. And I try to get clients all the time to get all the noise in their head down. And then once all that noise that the head is just repeating over and over and it's written down, the brain will actually go, oh, someone's finally listened to me, and it'll stop being so relentless and bothering you. And then you can really be in the creative headspace. Then you can move into the freedom of going anywhere into your imagination. And so I would invite you, RL, to put everything down, get the garbage out of your head, all the doubts, all the things that it wants to tell you on a continual basis about what you should or shouldn't do. Get that all out, but then move into the creative space. If you could just let that creativity flow in the writing and see what evolved in that, There's writing groups. There is so many online courses that you could take about just exploring it. You don't know where the end is, and don't worry about what the end result is going to be. This is about learning how to find things that spark you, that get you excited, I love the yes, that makes you go, yes, that's the thing. That's the thing. Okay, so RL's saying he's an isolated loner himself for many years now from friendships and any relationships. So I have no idea what people truly think of me. I'm dropping the F-bomb. Where are we? We're almost done, right? I'm dropping the F-bomb. Who fucking cares what anyone thinks of you? It's not your business about what anyone else thinks of you. It is the only business you have is what about what you think about you. And my advice is always about compassion. You're doing the best that you can in any given moment. And now you have this possibilities of going out and exploring this really exciting concept of maybe writing and different ways of writing, whether it's a screenplay or fiction or nonfiction. There's so many different ways to write. Journaling, allowing that imagination to just unfold and explore it, to play with it. And that's my invitation for you, RL. If you want to find your spirituality, it's in play. Spirituality, to really start to embrace who you truly are, it's about releasing all these preconceived ideas of what we are and just playing with the thing that makes our heart sing. RL saying just hesitates. Yeah, there's a fear there, right? There's a fear about going out there. And my guess is that the fear has to do with the judgment of others. You're worried about what other person might think or conceive of you. Put it down. If you want to live a life, if you want to have joyful experience, go out and dance. Go out and dance naked. Then they would have something to think about you. All you need to do is go out and have a little bit of fun. And when I say fun, it's what is fun for you. It's what is fun for you. RL is saying I hit it on the head about being scared about what other people think. I think that's what you're talking about, right? Yep. I know people. That's what I feel into easily, is what's going on inside them. So yeah, it's not about these other people though, RL. It's not about these other people. It's about you and your experience and breaking free of the fear. And I always kind of envision it as a firewall because it looks really scary, having a big door that's full of fire. But boy, once you walk through that door, the other side is easy peasy. It's never as bad as you could possibly conceive of. And when I get to the other side of that firewall, it's got such a sense of relief that I did it. Okay, I'll dance, but won't get butt naked. See, dancing is nothing now, right? Compared to having to go out there when you're naked. It's all perspective. All right, RL, I want you to go out and I want you to dance. I want you to write. It sounds like writing is something that is really kind of appealing to you. And I want to see, especially with your hesitation about really putting yourself out there, if you could find a writing group that meets, and I know there's lots of them. I have a friend of mine that loves writing too, and she is going to little writing get-togethers that are free all the time. And it's fun to go. And I mean, I went to a couple with her and they would just throw out an idea and then you have to just write about it for 10 minutes. And it's just an amazing way to get your creativity going. It's a great way to connect with others, and it'll get you out, and you don't have to get naked. Now, it's very helpful, and you're going to feel better if you can express yourself authentically, which means that don't try to hide behind what you think they want you to see, because here's the thing, you don't know what they want. Let me tell you that. You don't know what they want. Everything that you're trying to, show them is based off what you think they want. So instead of overthinking everything, go out there and just be yourself And it's okay even that it's a shy you or reserved you, as long as you just get out there and just dance a little bit. Dance with those words. Dance with the idea that you don't have to stay in the box that you currently are in. That would be my greatest hope for you. He's saying, I prefer to be alone, but would definitely like a companion here and there and have friends and mentors. Being that you're giving me great advice, do you personally have a mentor? Or thoughts on mentorship? I have had spiritual teachers. I don't know if I've really had I don't think I've had, if I had a mentor within the spiritual realm, it's been non-physical. And you're going to love this. My biggest mentors are I had worked with dragon energy, and they are my biggest mentors. Now, there are a few people that I follow as far as that work in the spiritual realm. One is crimsoncircle.com. He's a channeler. I love channelers. To me, they're bringing in the most relevant current information, because our energy is shifting and changing so much on earth right now that I'm not one to look back. I'm here to really work on moving us past where we are. And so I like to work with channelers, but I'm very picky about the channelers that I work with. And there's only a few that I really rely on. So there's only two that I would even recommend on air. So crimsoncircle.com is Jeffrey Hoppy, and he channels Adama Saint-Germain. He used to channel Tobias about 10 years each. And on his website, crimsoncircle.com, there are tons of channels. He does one a month for the last 21 years. Now, he does a lot of other paid stuff, but there's lots of free stuff there too. Now, he is a pretty strong mentor. He's a very strong spiritual leader. You call out bullshit in a minute. So he's not for everyone. So yeah, there's only one other person that I would recommend, which is there's a woman in Scotland, who she's also a channeler, Ophelia Aurora. She's amazing. Thoughts on seeing fortune tellers, or are they BS? Just like people, there's good and there's bad. There's good and there's bad. I've certainly gone to lots of them. There's certainly something. There are a lot of good ones. There's a lot of mediocre ones. And there's a fair share of bad ones. So until you really experience them yourself, it's kind of hard to say. Now, what I would share is that my spiritual teachers are not fans about going to psychics, only because we are the creators of our own life. And I'm not sure when you joined, but I was actually talking earlier where I had a psychic tell me that I would own a bakery. I'd never given a thought to owning a bakery before that. And yet I created it because it got so set into my head. So when you see a psychic, you tend to get things put into your head that you create validity around, or maybe you reject it because you're not sure that you should be trusting them. So it's about learning how to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, then you can feel into your own energy about whether the person that you have in front of you is worthy of giving your belief into what they're telling you. But I would always feel into what they're talking about and assessing it from an energetic point of view about whether it feels right or wrong for you. And if it doesn't feel good, walk away. Walk away. He's asking, did you say you've done hypnotherapy? Yeah, I'm a certified master hypnotic coach. I'm actually have a bigger degree in it, but I found that once I started doing hypnosis, everybody came to me and they wanted me to fix them. And I was like, oh, you don't understand. You have to fix yourself. Well, I can help you with that. I am really good about empowering you to find the solutions in your life, about shifting the energy in you that might be blocked. But I'm not going to go into your subconscious and flip the magic switch that is going to make you a different person. And then unfortunately, a lot of people think that's true in hypnosis, or they want you to put them out so much that they don't remember it, but they're going to get the proof that they want. This lifetime is about you finding you and empowering yourself, and about recognizing who you are and living in that truth. And that's not about getting, you can learn from others, but they can't do the work for you. And that is really, so that's why I call myself a master hypnotic coach, um, instead of a clinical hypnotherapist that I've been trained in. Because I like to coach people. I like to mentor people about assisting them in finding the blocks that they have in their life. Yeah, so it's amazing. All right, guys. Is there any last questions from anyone else before we close up? Because it is a little past after the time I said I would be here, but I'm so thankful that you guys showed up. Thank you, RL, for sharing, especially your story, and Bethany. I hope you guys go out and conquer the world. I want to see the very, very best for all of you. And I'm so excited to be doing this kind of stuff with all of you, starting the conversation, getting everyone to realize, I'm here to empower you. I'm here for you guys to understand that you can live the life that is the best for you in a very empowered, authentic way. So this has been amazing, amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and namaste. Good night. Yes.